Welcome back. Today we continue our discussions on Lafcadio Hearn's A Living God. In our previous video, we had seen how Hamaguchi Gohei had set fire to his own stacks of rice. He managed in a short span of time to call the entire village up on the plateau. The urgency that he showed made the villagers question the reason behind such urgency in his voice, in his demeanor, and why did he set fire to his own rice stacks? In response to all these questions, he pointed towards the sea and said, "Say now if I'm mad." What was he pointing at? Let's find out. Through the twilight eastward all looked, and saw at the edge of the dusky horizon a long, lean, dim line like the shadowing of a coast where no coast ever was. So they all turned eastward towards the sea, and they saw at the edge, almost at the end of the horizon, there was a long, lean, dim line, and it was appearing, it was moving forward, and it was shadowing the entire coast where no coast ever was, and it was coming from a long distance, and it appeared that it is shadowing a coast where no coast ever existed. A line that thickened as they gazed. As the line moved closer, it thickened. It appeared to be broader. They kept looking, yet incomparably more quickly. So they kept looking, and the line kept approaching closer. But it was coming at a tremendous speed. For that long darkness was the returning sea, and the darkness was not a simple line, but it was the sea rushing back towards the coast. Towering like a cliff, it was towering as high as a cliff, as a precipice, and coursing more swiftly than the kite flies, and it was moving at a tremendously high speed, as fast as perhaps the kite flies, more swiftly than that. Tsunami, shrieked the people. So the people now recognized what it was. It was tsunami. And then all shrieks and all sounds and all power to hear sounds were annihilated by a nameless shock heavier than any thunder. And when the returning sea came closer and they could see the monstrous waves almost as high as a cliff, their entire voices were smote by a nameless shock, and when the impact happened, it was as if they were being struck by a thunder. The sound of the crashing waves was so tremendous. As the colossal swell smote the shore, that is, it struck the shore with a weight that sent a shudder through the hills. It sent a shiver through the hills. The sound was unbearable, almost like a thunder, and it covered the entire shore, and with a foam burst like a blaze of sheet lightning. And the foam, it burst out almost like a fire that comes out from a sheet lightning, from the lightning flame that emerges out of the lightning. Then for an instant nothing was visible but a storm of spray rushing up the slope like a cloud. Only the droplets of the foam could be seen, nothing could be seen anymore. And the people scattered back in panic, and they moved back from the edge of the plateau in panic because they could see the menace of it, from the mere menace of it, and they witnessed the devastating power of sea. When they looked again, they saw a white horror of sea raving over the place. The sea was moving over the place, uncontrolled, unrestrained, of their homes. So their homes were completely destroyed, and the white horror is what? The sea waves. It moved about, ravaging everything in its path in an uncontrolled, unrestrained manner. It drew back, roaring and tearing out the bowels of the land as it went, and it felt that it was, bowels is the insides, as if it was making or scratching out the insides of the earth, which with its tremendous force. There is an imagery of violence here associated with this tsunami. Twice, thrice, 5 times the sea struck and ebbed, but each time with lesser surges. The first one was the strongest. It continued twice, thrice, but each time the surge was lesser. Then it returned to its ancient bed and stayed, still raging as after a typhoon. Then after a point it moved the seawater moved back and it stayed where it always used to stay and kept raging as if after a typhoon, after a violent storm. That is how the sea behaved. On the plateau, for a time, there was no word spoken. All stared speechlessly at the desolation beneath. Everything was desolate, everything was destroyed. Whatever was left behind, it was only the footprints of the violent waves. The ghastliness of hurled rock and naked riven cliff, the bewilderment of scooped up deep sea wrack and shingle shot over the empty site of the dwelling and temple. All around, everything was scattered. There were scattered rocks. The cliffs were ripped up of their ancient rock coverings. There were shingles all around the place where once temples and houses stood. The village was not, the greater part of the fields were not, even the terraces had ceased to exist. And of all the homes that had been about the bay, there remained nothing recognizable except two straw roofs tossing madly in the offing. So at a distance, only few thatched roofs were moving about, nothing else remained of the entire village. The after terror of the death escaped, and the stupefaction of the general loss kept all lips dumb until the voice of Hamaguchi was heard again, observing gently. So everyone was stupefied. There was an after terror because they realized they had narrowly escaped death. They remained dumb until Hamaguchi's voice was again heard. That was why I set fire to the rice. He, their Choja, now stood among them, almost as poor as the poorest, for his wealth was gone, but he had saved 400 lives by the sacrifice. So we see how his sacrifice makes him heroic. It is not the physical prowess of a hero, but his ability to sacrifice his entire wealth, his entire savings for the well-being of 400 villagers. He said that that is the reason why he had set fire to his rice stacks. What happens next? We will find that out in the next video. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel if you like my work, if you like my explanations. I will meet you all again in the next video. Meanwhile, do not forget to write in the comment section the other stories that you would want me to discuss. Thank you for watching.